For anybody that wants to know the difference between the way one game rolls into an expansion and another, the best thing we can talk about is the beginning of what WoW would call the pre-patch event for Final Fantasy XIV. We don't do a big show of things in-game. The last half patch is the last of our story. That's it. And then we go off into November relatively blind, but between now and then, not only do we have a number of seasonal events planned, but patch 5.57 just hit. Patch 5.57 is where they kind of release the gates on our power. For you Final Fantasy players, this is exciting news. What this is going to mean is any of you farming Savage, you are now going to be guaranteed in Eden's Promise Savage to get 2 treasure coffers, and the weekly restriction has been removed. This means gearing up in the top level content will be much, much easier to get access to those 530s. And then the weekly entrance restriction has been removed, and players may now proceed directly to any area. They will also now receive the power of the Echo, which means that every time you have a substantial progress in there, you're going to be getting a buff, increasing maximum HP, damage dealt, and healing potency by 10%. It will not increase after they all die, so I think it just stops at the 1 is how I understand that. But usually at this point they start just trying to make sure that everybody's going to get their Savage clears if they want to clear the tier before we go into the next expansion. We're also going to be making Tower at Paradigm's Reach part of the duty roulette, so those of you that do Alliance raids as your roulette, you have a chance at now getting the last and final of the Yorha raids because it's not seen as difficult anymore. And then the Bojin Southern Front. Field notes have been added as possible rewards for some of the skirmishes, treasure chests that appear after freeing hostages during the critical engagement. Castrum will now yield more fragments, and the amount of metal earned for completion of the critical engagement at Castrum has been increased as well. The number of Bosnian clusters. So this is in our relic grind area, requiring in exchange for the following items from the Resistance Quartermaster has been reduced from 3 to 1. This is your Clarity, Contention, Finesse, Fortitude, and Divinity. What these things do we're basically saying that our in-game relic zone, WoW's equivalent, is the Maw, kind of. They work a lot different, but they serve the same function. It's making the rewards much, much easier to go get, so you're not spending just hours and hours and hours in there if you want to really kind of maximize your experience. But for those of you grinding your relics, one of the big grindy steps is that you've had to run the second instance tied to this zone, Delibrum Regine. You've had to run that 15 times per relic. And now that is going to drop 3 of those Time-Worn artifacts instead of 1, dropping it to 5 runs, making the Palace of the Dead alternative much less appealing in my opinion. I like Delibrum though. The field record entry of Fran Urit has been adjusted, and then our Allagan Tomestones of Revelation, our weekly tome cap that we turn in for our 520 gear. Remember that with your Yorha 3 tokens, you can upgrade that into Augmented Crypt Lurker, which will push you to 530. And the problem is the weekly cap has been 450, so some of those more expensive pieces, they take a little bit of planning because you can't get them in a weekly lockout, but they've now pushed that to 900. You'll still be able to only store 2,000, so make sure you're not capping on those, but it's going to make those much, much easier to farm at your convenience. The Visit Another World server has been added. Is that really true? The Visit Another World server has been added with the subcommand issue, allowing players to log on to another world. I thought this was 558. That seems shocking. And I read half of this. And quest completion can now be confirmed via the character profile. So the character profile page will now list completed quests, including their date of completion, which is nice. So other than that, a couple of little odds and ends. The patch notes will be linked down below. That's a big deal. And I will see you guys in 557.